But now it is time to get to our top 11 list. We've been doing this for the last couple of weeks. First week we did quarterbacks. Second week we did running backs. Now we're doing tight ends. Next week, folks, it's wide receivers. So if you want to get that's going to be a lot harder because there are a lot more than 11 wide receivers to pick from to get a list out of. So think about that for next week. Who's the top 11 in the NFC and wide receivers? But for this week, it is tight ends. Let's just jump right into it. And there are 16 teams in the NFC, but we are ranking a top 11, which means 5 teams are going to get wiggity whacked off the list today.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
Yeah, we're going to bite their kneecap off. Russ, what is the first team that gets whacked? Name me a team that does not have a top 11 tight end on the roster.
Well, one thing that I think that I want to throw out there first is how we pick these.
Right.
Why is this team going to get wiggity whacked? So we're trying to find 11, right? So we're going to take into consideration what they did last year, how well they can block and play the tight end position and receiving, all of the package put together. And if you don't have one in the top 11, then we got to call our guy in, Pete, the unaliver. He comes in and he whacks.
Look care what that thing for.
He whacks the entire room. And somebody that's not going to have a tight end in the top 11 because Darren Waller just retired from the NFL will be the New York Giants. So we call in Pete the Unaliver. He whacks the entire room. And then we don't have to worry about having any more of I don't even know who's playing tight end in New York, Mike.
I do not know. I know they have Devin Singletary as a running back and Daniel Jones. They drafted Malik Neighbors. They've got Wan'Dale Robinson. Not a lot of firepower on the offense over there. That team's in trouble. Like you've said a couple times, it's a great point. They paid the wrong guy. You should have paid Saquon Barkley, maybe not what Christian McCaffrey just got, but something north of the franchise tag. You should have paid him that money and made him a Giant for life because he's a special player. Now he's a special player for your division rival. And Darren Waller flaked out and retired. So all these pieces that they were building from Brian Daboll, who just won Coach of the Year a couple years ago, now it's all blown up on them. This team is in trouble. They're in a division with 2 powerhouse teams with the Cowboys and the Eagles, and it doesn't matter if I did know who the tight end was. It certainly wouldn't be one of the top 11 in the NFC.
Look care what that thing for.
Thank you, Pete the Unaliver. Yep. So the New York Giants, their entire room is done. You want me to? Yeah, I like this flow right here, where I can kind of give you the room, and then you can tell me why too. And it turns out that this division's pretty bad. I think that Washington is a dumpster fire right there, and you got Logan Thomas doesn't even play there anymore, and it seems like you want him to be good every year, and it's not. They can't get it going right there. Who's going to play there? But I got the Washington Commanders on the wiggity whack list. Thank you, Pete the Unaliver. I appreciate that. Do you agree with me, Mike?
I 100% agree with you. Logan Thomas has been a fantasy bust every year of his career. He's got a great talent. He'll flash really great. Well, now they traded him anyway. They don't have him on the roster anymore. They have literally no one at tight end. A bunch of guys I never heard of when I looked it up. It's not even worth putting their names out there because they're not going to make the top 11 regardless of what their names are. They do have Terry McLaurin, who's a real number 1 receiver. They have Jahan Dotson, in my opinion, one of the best number 2 receivers in the entire league, not just the NFC. And they've got a budding young running back in Brian Robinson from Alabama, who rebounded from being shot last year and came on strong at the end of the year, on a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who's going to run a lot. A young quarterback like Jaden Daniels needs a good tight end. They need a good tight end. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Commanders make a trade or something to shore up this position. But right now, they don't have a tight end in the top 11, so they get whacked.
Look care what that thing for.
Thanks, Pete. For anybody who doesn't know, we got dinged pretty hard for using the KILL word, so that's Pete the Unaliver. Yeah. Thanks, Facebook.
Opposite of alive is what he makes you. in there. And in the spirit of our, Manny the Main, the guy who calls all the shots around here. But we got 2 rooms out of the way, Mike. We've done a good job already. We got to get it down to 11, but we have this other team that has like a 3-foot quarterback, and they're out there just. I mean,
wait.
When your tight end is Tommy Tremble, and that's your best tight end, he did have his best year last year, but you're not going to be in the top 11. You weren't even close in any metric or anything. So we have to whack that entire room right there. So there you go. Carolina Panthers, your tight end room is whack. Thank you.
Took care of that thing for you.
I appreciate you, Pete the Unaliver. So that's 3 rooms out of the way. Do you want to say anything about the 4-foot quarterback? And
there's another team that's in trouble when it comes to weapons. Second year, they got Jonathan Mingo. They got Adam Thielen at 34 years old, I believe. They did get Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in the backfield, you got Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. Again, not a lot of firepower, a lot similar to the New York Giants. And a young mobile quarterback back there, and no weapons for him, including tight ends. This is another team that's in trouble. A guy like Bryce Young, just like we were just saying about Jaden Daniels, could really benefit from having a good tight end there. Going to have to whack the entire room there in Carolina.
Taking care of business.
Took care of that thing for you.
Going to take care of the entire room right there. And that wasn't hard. Those 3 weren't that hard.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's nothing there. But these next 2 rooms, like, this was tricky. We had a phone call today. In our pre-production, this was a very, very hard 3 tight ends to either get whacked or be the last one on this list of 11. So, do you want to pick one and set it up? Because these are both surprises to me.
Right. I am going to pick a guy who is not in the top 11 of tight ends, but he is a guy I would love to have on my team. And his name is Taysom Hill, because he can play quarterback, he can play running back, he can play tight end, but he just doesn't do enough as a tight end to make the top 11. Maybe if they continually played, and they got another guy named Juwan Johnson, who they believe in a lot, and it cuts into his target share, and he blocks like crazy, he catches the ball really well. I think the guy could be a stellar player. I mean, when the Lions played the Saints last year, this was the guy that was killing us. When you needed 1 yard, I would go for 4th down every play. If it was 4th and 1, I would give it to Taysom Hill up the middle. This guy's strong as an ox. He's chiseled. He runs hard. You can't coach want to. And he wants it, and you could tell on every play. But unfortunately, he's not a top 11 tight end in the NFC at this point.
Yeah, well, there you go. Pete the Unaliver coming in.
That thing for you.
Thank you, Pete the Unaliver. And that's the thing, too. These are hard cuts. That's hard for me, too. I looked at that. I like Taysom Hill as well, but it's like, well, maybe they just don't focus their offense around that. I do like Taysom Hill as a player, but I mean, there's some pretty good tight ends in the NFC, and I think that this is a good chance for us to highlight some guys that you might not have known about.
And just like we did with the quarterbacks in week 1, and like we did with the running backs, we are talking about this situation this year, this quarterback, this coach going into this season. Who is this ranking? Because obviously Taysom Hill is a guy that you might rank higher in talent, but he has a bum for a quarterback, Derek Carr. So that's also gonna keep him off the list. So just keep that in mind. This year, this is the criteria for this list. Do we have one more team to whack, or are we ready to hit the
Derek Carr? Yeah, this is the last team is really hard right here, and I'm glad that you saved this one for me, because the Taysom Hill one really hurts, but I think that even the audience out there can understand why, because we're going to talk about more traditional tight ends. So this one hurt a little bit more, but he just was right outside of the top 11 and like everything. It's not that he's a bad guy, but Tyler Higbee from the Los Angeles Rams, I have to get rid of the entire room, because if that's your best player, he's not in the top 11 tight ends. He's not on my top 11s. How do you feel about Tyler Higbee?
Tyler Higbee would not be on my top 11, even if he didn't suffer an ACL in the playoffs, an ACL injury in the playoffs at the hands of Kirby Joseph, which was
That's a great point.
A legal hit, by the way. Just very unfortunate. Nobody wants to see that happen. But also the timing sucks for him because he's going to miss the beginning of the year and the other guys that are behind him on the Rams. And there's a lot of firepower there with Kyron Williams, now them drafting Blake Corum, right? And Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford can make every throw. So they're a team that can get by without a good tight end, unlike some of these other teams we talk about like Carolina or Washington. They got whacked. Or New Orleans, they don't have a good quarterback. The Rams do, and that's going to help their team overcome the fact that they do not have a tight end on the top 11. Tyler Higbee, even if he was to come back week 1, he would be on the fringe of this list, but he's not going to make it. So,
oh, thank you, Pete the Unaliver.
That thing for
You know, and that's what's good about having a guy like Pete, because sometimes it hurts. You know, I wouldn't want to have to, I don't want to have to do those things. And, you know, and Pete helps us with the hard decisions. And now here we are. We've gotten to this place where we can represent, like, everybody that is left has at least one tight end that we are going to rank in the top 11. So welcome